Guys, this is a bit sad if this is the final reckoning, the true final reckoning. This is the fourth, I think, Mission Impossible junket in a row that I've done. And now it's kind of like, I was just saying to Simon and Pom, like,
What are you going to do?
Now you're out
what
of
am I going
work.
to do with my life?
You're out of
What
work
am I
now.
gonna do?
What are you going to do for the rest
You
of your
guys will have to take over. Just wear Tom Cruise masks and do everything. I was listening to an interview with the great McHugh about the cinema experience, and there's so much talk about cinema versus streaming and everything else, and this is just made for the big screen. I just wondered for you guys, what was kind of the change in terms of a cinema experience for you guys that led you down the path into the jobs that you do now? Was there a particular film or an experience that you had that set you on this path?
For me, growing up, our bonding experience was going to the cinema. We used to go almost about every weekend. That's when tickets were cheaper. And I just remember being blown away by seeing, these big, action films and stuff. And I don't know, I think it was more so just being that bonding experience with my mom and everybody else. And it was an event. And I remember recently I saw this post where it was like in 1999 when Star Wars just had come out. One of the Star Wars came out, and they had all the fandoms dressed up, and they had their lightsabers, and in the cinema before it even started, they were like having battles and stuff, and I remember those times, and I want to go back to that.
I think similar for me, going to the cinema was always a communal experience, and the fact that the lights go down and you're sat in an audience full of so-called strangers, but then by the end of it, if the story was good, you'd felt changed. And you need people in an audience to be able to kind of bear witness to the experience you just had too. And the fact that afterwards, you can discuss, a great film for me will be one that like people want to talk about afterwards, and we kind of like dissect something, like what do you think that meant? And then so it creates a conversation. And so for me, it's like at the center of any kind of storytelling. Really, it's like the center of civilization. It's the center of community. It's what brings us together.
Yeah, Simon said Jackass was an experience.
Jackass was his
cinema experience was his. I thought he'd say
Each to
Star
their own.
Wars, but Jackass
Interesting.
is what it is. You guys have worked with Tom previously on this, and I know that you've said recently about you were wrapped like 1,000 times or something. You came back and everything else. Has working with him and McHugh before helped you kind of prepare for that going into the sequel? Because I can imagine you don't always get that on other films. On some indie films, you're doing it for 28 days, 30 days, and then you're wrapped and stuff like that. So what's that experience like?
It felt like one continuous experience. Like even if we weren't on set or we had pockets of breaks, we knew, because it was kind of living within us anyway, because we knew at any time we'd be called or something would change and we'd adapt to something, or we'd learn a new skill, or we'd find out we're going to a different place. So it felt like you're part of this kind of big traveling family, this movable feast over time. And I mean, I was shooting scenes a few days before they had to deliver the film. So I'd see, there's a scene in this one where it's intercut with Grace doing different things in the same sort of kind of period of time. But some of it I'd shot 2 years previously. And that's the excitement of kind of watching it. So I'm watching it as an audience member, and I'm seeing kind of what they edited together and how they created, they created the version of Grace that they wanted, given the different things that I was giving them.
He doesn't stop, does he? He's always thinking. He's always thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
That's such a crazy way to do things, but only he can do it. There's so many questions you've probably been asked about Tom over this period, this press junket, previous press junkets that you've done, about best performance and everything else. Do you think there's a Tom Cruise performance that is vastly underrated that people don't give him enough credit for? Because a lot of audiences, younger audiences, just see him as Maverick or Ethan Hunt. Is there a performance in his back catalogue that you think, God, that was such an amazing performance and so underrated?
Yeah, American Made. I don't think a lot of people talk about that film like they should. That was one of my favorite movies of his. And I remember when I worked with him on Top Gun, I had to tell him, I was like, yo, I loved you in that freaking movie. That's what it is for me.
I think I loved him in Magnolia. I mean, he's such a quintessential hero and a man of the people in his movies. The kind of the incredibly charismatic everyman in a way, in something like Jerry Maguire. I love it when I see him flawed and I see him in moments of being awkward or unsure. But I think for me with Magnolia, he lent into something that was so different to our perception of who he is on screen. And I understand that he wrote his opening monologue of his character in that, and I think it's sort of, it kind of just, I think it really starts to show his range as a character actor.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to speak to Ridley Scott last year for Gladiator and said about Legend, and he was like, "Oh, Legend? You like Legend?" I was like, "There's a revival for Legend somewhere in the world."
What I loved about Legend is in Legend, he's so young, but there's like shots where he is like walking off into the sunset with his love, but Tom can't just walk off. He's like backflips, runs back, checks she's okay, checks everyone's all right, like does all this stuff. You can see this kind of the energy of this like young kid who is just like so excited to be doing films, built for it, made for it. Is so happy to be there. Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for your time. Absolute pleasure.
Thank
you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey, you guys.
Hey, you guys.
Hey, that's what they all say.
Hey, you guys.
Hey, you guys.